a gentle walk through a museum after closing. Chapter 1 of 12. Soft opening. The heavy main front doors of the museum have just clicked securely shut, separating the bustling avenue outside from the profound, welcoming silence within. The last lingering footsteps of the daytime visitors have long since faded away into the surrounding streets, leaving behind a vast, tranquil sanctuary dedicated to human memory. In the central grand hall, the bright daylight that once filtered through the high glass skylights has softened into a quiet, deep evening twilight. High overhead, the iron ribs of the glass roof cast long, gentle shadows against the soaring stone arches and tall walls. As you step slowly across the polished limestone floor, the faint rustle of your movement seems to rest lightly on the air. There is no rush here tonight. The museum after hours does not demand attention or hurry your gaze. It simply invites you to rest among the quiet artifacts of the past. The warm overhead chandeliers have been dimmed for the night, replaced by low, golden ambient lamps that illuminate just enough of the architecture to guide your path. This transition to night lighting is a practice designed not only to conserve energy, but to protect sensitive historic materials, vellum manuscripts, ancient dyed textiles, and delicate watercolor pigments from unnecessary exposure to light. Standing near the center of the hall, surrounded by tall marble columns, you can feel the deliberate design of the space. In the 18th and 19th centuries, when public museums were first established across Europe, architects intentionally constructed these grand entrance halls with lofty ceilings and classical proportions. They wanted visitors to feel a sense of immediate calm, stepping out of the noisy, industrializing cities into a space dedicated to contemplation and learning. The high, open air was meant to clear the mind, preparing the visitor to encounter centuries of human creation with quiet focus. Now, in the still evening, that original purpose feels entirely restored. The air inside the museum is cool, soft, and carefully balanced, maintained at a steady temperature and constant relative humidity to ensure the preservation of every carved stone, painted canvas, and hammered coin. With every slow, measured breath, you can feel the steady consistency of this climate-controlled environment, completely untouched by the shifting weather of the world outside. Ahead, the wide marble staircase leads gracefully toward the upper galleries. Each step has been smoothed over centuries by millions of gentle feet, leaving soft, subtle depressions in the stone that speak to the long continuum of human curiosity. At the foot of the stairs, a small bronze bust from classical antiquity rests on a wooden pedestal, its patinated surface catching the soft glow of a nearby lamp. In the daytime, crowds might gather around it, but now it rests peacefully in the shadows, waiting patiently for morning. We will begin our evening walk here, taking our time, letting each step be lighter than the last. There are no schedules to keep, no exhibits to hurry through, and nowhere else you need to be. As we prepare to move into the first quiet room, allow your shoulders to drop and your breathing to find a natural, effortless rhythm. The history housed within these walls has endured for centuries, and tonight it rests in absolute peace. Chapter 2: The First Quiet Traces. As the heavy oak doors of the grand hall rest gently in their frames, the lingering whispers of the daytime visitors dissolve into a soft and steady silence. The air here is cool and still, carrying the faint, reassuring scent of polished wood, beeswax, and ancient stone. With each slow step forward, the polished marble floor echoes with a quiet, muted cadence, guiding you deeper into the shadow-dappled galleries of the museum after dark. Ahead, line upon line of glass display cases rest beneath the dim evening illumination. Soft, warm pools of light fall upon the earliest artifacts in the collection. Simple objects crafted by careful human hands thousands of years ago. Here, in the quiet hush of the evening, there is no rush to understand everything at once, only a gentle invitation to pause, breathe, and observe. In the first case rests a handful of pale, smoothed flint tools from the early Neolithic era. Worked meticulously along their edges, these small scrapers and hand axes once served the modest, daily rhythms of ancient encampments. You can almost feel the steady patience required to shape such stone, the quiet rhythm of strike upon strike, turning raw mineral into something functional, durable, and essential. Beside them lie small fragments of early earthenware, their surfaces bearing the faint, preserved imprint of woven reeds and press-patterned fingertips. The clay was gathered from riverbanks long since reshaped by time, molded while damp, and fired in small pit kilns beneath open skies. Though thousands of years have passed, the warm terracotta hues still glow softly under the museum lights, holding the peaceful memory of hearth fires lit in a very distant world. Moving a few steps further down the hall, the shadows lengthen into a gallery devoted to the early river valleys of the ancient world. Within a low glass showcase, small cylinder seals carved from dark hematite and sky blue lapis, lazuli, rest upon soft velvet pedestals. In ancient Mesopotamia, these tiny, intricate stone cylinders were rolled across wet clay tablets to sign documents, mark trade vessels, or record the seasonal harvest yields. As you gaze at the minute, carved figures, grazing cattle, sheaves of barley, and quiet geometric paths, it is easy to imagine the ancient artisans and scribes who held them. They worked by the amber glow of oil lamps in quiet rooms, carving enduring meaning into stone no larger than a thimble. Everything in these dimly lit halls exists in a state of deep, undisturbed rest. The artifacts do not demand your attention. They simply remain, holding their long, silent stories in the stillness. There is a soothing rhythm to the way history settles when the evening lights grow low, a quiet continuity that connects the distant past to this present peaceful moment. The subtle, rhythmic murmur of the climate control system rests gently in the background, like a steady, low breath that keeps watch over these ancient treasures. With another slow, effortless step, you leave the earliest tools behind, allowing your eyes to rest on the soft, deepening shadows of the corridor ahead. Each display case is a quiet vessel of time, inviting your mind to slow down, to let go of the day, and to drift gently towards sleep. Chapter 3: Rooms, Roads, and Weather. Step slowly into the spacious gallery of architectural antiquities, where the museum's high, vaulted ceilings capture the faint, rhythmic hum of the evening air handlers. The main overhead lights have dimmed to a soft amber glow, casting long, peaceful shadows across the polished stone floor. In this quiet hall, the exhibit traces the gentle ways human hands once fashioned shelter from stone and clay, and how ancient travelers measured the vast world step by unhurried step. Before you rests a carefully preserved section of a Roman road, brought to the museum from a quiet river valley in ancient Gaul. The large basalt paving stones are worn smooth, polished by centuries of leather sandals, heavy wooden wheels, and gentle seasonal rainfall. Beneath these surface stones lies a meticulous arrangement of fine gravel, crushed brick, and dense clay, layered intentionally so that heavy rainwater would drain smoothly away into shallow roadside ditches. As you gaze at the fitted stones, it is easy to imagine the steady cadence of footfalls from 2,000 years ago, where traders, messengers, and local farmers carrying their harvest goods all moved at the calm and patient pace of the sun. Moving further down the gallery, the air feels delightfully cool, and still beside a full-scale reconstruction of a Mediterranean courtyard house. In the ancient world, living rooms were planned with great care to harvest winter sunlight, while protecting families from the harsh midday heat of summer. High, lime-plastered walls kept the interior quiet, cool, and deeply shaded, while a central open courtyard caught the fresh evening breeze. Rainwater fell gently through a central roof, opening into a shallow, tiled basin known as an impluvium, storing clean water for everyday household use. Above, rows of curved terracotta roof tiles overlapped like bird feathers, guiding the gentle autumn showers cleanly off the eaves. The craftsmanship was simple, durable, and deeply attuned to the natural rhythms of season and sky. Near the high windowed wall of the gallery, glass display cases house small artifacts once used to observe and live alongside the changing weather. There are bronze wind vanes shaped like tritons, carved slate weather dials, and small ceramic oil lamps engineered with covered wicks to withstand drafty night winds. Long before modern instruments, early communities read the sky in the shifting flight of migrating birds, the rich scent of damp soil before dawn, and the quiet ring of distant village bells carried across still air. Every object displayed here speaks to a gentle harmony between human daily life and the natural world, reflecting a shared effort to build warmth, safety, and restorative rest regardless of the weather outside. The gallery path continues to slope gently downward into the deepening evening silence, Outside the tall glass windows, a faint night drizzle begins to touch the panes, creating a soft, repetitive murmur that blends seamlessly with the stillness inside. The old stone roads that once cut through ancient forests remain peaceful under the earth, their long journeys completed long ago. The quiet rooms built from sun-baked brick continue to keep their timeless watch over history. Here in the darkened museum, under the soft amber glow, everything rests in peaceful stillness, settled into the deep, comforting calm of the night. Chapter 4: Tools and Daily Rhythms. As we step into the soft, indirect lighting of the next gallery, the temperature cools slightly and the quiet deepens. Here, within glass cases that glow like distant stars, rest the simple objects of ordinary human lives. There are no royal crowns or grand monuments in this wing, only the honest artifacts of daily work. Bronze sickles with smooth, wooden handles shaped to fit a farmer's palm. Clay spindles weighted with small ceramic whorls, once held by patient hands, spinning thread long before the sun had fully risen. To walk among these items in the late hours of the night is to feel a quiet kinship with the steady, recurring rhythms of the past. Life across thousands of years has so often been measured not by dramatic events, but by the gentle repetition of simple tasks carried out from dawn until dusk. Notice the slate grinding stones set upon low pedestals near the wall. Their surfaces are shallowly curved, worn smooth by centuries of pressing grain into flour. You can almost hear the soft, rhythmic scrape of stone against stone, a sound that once opened every morning in ancient hearths across the world. Before the first light touched the horizons of Mesopotamia or the Nile Valley, someone sat upon a woven mat, moving their arms in a slow, steady cadence. It was quiet work, untroubled by haste, binding the household to the slow turn of the day. Beside the stones sit small terracotta oil lamps, no larger than the palm of your hand. Their tiny nozzles bear faint traces of soot, lingering memories of a low flame that once cast flickering shadows against stone walls while evening meals were prepared and stories were shared in hushed tones before rest. Further down the quiet aisle, a wooden loom frame stands in peaceful stillness. The warp threads, though restored by careful conservators, hang with a calm vertical grace. In ancient times, weaving was a steady background rhythm of the household. The wooden shuttle would pass left, then right, carrying fine threads of flax or wool across the loom. The press of the reed, the soft thud of wooden comb against thread, each movement added one tiny line to a garment that would shield a loved one from the winter chill. There is a profound comfort in considering how many generations have found peace in such repetitive care. The mind naturally quiets when dedicated to a single, gentle motion, repeated until the work is complete. In a low case, nearby rest small iron keys, bone needles, and brass weights, each marked with tiny stamps to ensure fair measure in ancient markets. They remind us that every bustling city of antiquity eventually settled into quiet at night. The markets closed, the iron keys turned in heavy oak doors, and the tools of craft were set upon wooden shelves to wait for morning. The night was always a time of rest, a natural pause granted to all living things. As we pause here in the stillness of the museum, surrounded by these silent companions of human routine, the air feels heavy with calm. The day's labors are long finished, the tools are put away, and everything rests in quiet safety. Chapter 5: Small Labors and Patient Hands. Beyond the grand marble stairways and tall stone arches lies a quieter wing of the museum, where the ceiling drops low and the light gathers soft and amber behind dark wooden cases. Here, resting upon modest velvet plinths, are the small tools of quiet routines: hand-turned spindles, brass thimbles rubbed smooth by decades of work, and narrow bone needles crafted to draw fine flax thread through coarse linen. Night has settled deeply outside, and within these dim halls, the low murmur of daytime visitors has faded into an untroubled silence. The air is still and cool, carrying only the faint, reassuring scent of aged oak cabinets, old paper, and beeswax polish. In the second glass display, a collection of bobbin lace cushions rest side by side, bathed in soft shadow. Each wooden pin was carved by hand from boxwood or cherry, smoothed down by countless hours of patient friction, as fingers twisted fine flax into delicate, repeating patterns. In centuries past, these small labors were carried out in the quiet corners of rural homes, beside low hearth fires, or near small cottage windows, where the last afternoon light dissolved into dusk. There was no hurry in the movement of the threads, only a steady, rhythmic cadence that mirrored the calm breathing of the house. One cross, one turn, over and over, until the long evening gently drew to a close. A few steps further along the gallery, row after row of small clay loom weights sit peacefully in shadow. Baked in simple earthen kilns over 2,000 years ago, each weight bears the gentle depression of a potter's thumb, pressed firmly into the damp silt before firing. Beside them lie small iron keys, heavy and unpolished, once used to lock away grain, linen chests, or garden gates. These objects were never meant for public display. They were born of daily necessity, built to endure the quiet repetition of ordinary days. Held in the palm, their cool surfaces speak of patient maintenance, of doors locked safely for the night, and small chores completed with steady, uncomplicated care. To look upon these modest tools in the stillness of the Midnight Museum is to remember how much of human history was shaped not by grand events, but by small, patient hands working in quiet places. Long before electric light altered the natural rhythm of the day, families gathered near the dim ember glow of the hearth, mending worn garments, turning wooden bowls, and carving simple children's toys from scrap pine. The work was slow and cyclical, following the gradual fall of night, allowing thoughts to drift gently, while the hands moved with easy, effortless familiarity. Now, those hands have long rested, but the objects remain, held in peaceful preservation beneath the low night lamps of the museum gallery. The glass surrounding them reflects only the deep blue shadows of the hall and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breath. Nothing here requires your attention now, and nothing asks to be completed. Every small labor for the day has already been laid down and finished. The tools rest upon their velvet cushions in unbroken calm, inviting you to rest as well, sinking softly into the quiet, dark stillness of the night. Chapter 6: Meals, Markets, and Shared Time. In the quiet gallery of daily antiquities, the air is still and soft. Footsteps drift lightly across the polished stone floor as evening settles completely over the museum. Outside, the city slumbers, while inside, low ambient gallery lights softly illuminate glass cases filled with the quiet remnants of ordinary human lives. Here rest small terracotta bowls from ancient Roman kitchens, smoothed by decades of gentle use, alongside modest bronze balance scales that once weighed barley, dried figs, and coarse sea salt in busy Mediterranean marketplaces long ago. Moving slowly past these shadowed display cases, one begins to appreciate how little the essential rhythm of human life has changed across the centuries. In ancient towns along the Aegean coast and throughout the fertile Nile Valley, the market day always began in the cool gray light before sunrise. Farmers brought baskets woven from river reed, willow filled with dark olives, garlic, wild mountain herbs, fresh flatbreads wrapped gently in linen cloths. The morning air in those gathering plazas was filled with the steady, soothing murmur of conversation, the soft scrape of earthenware jugs being set upon wooden tables, and the gentle clinking of coin and grain weights measuring out the provisions of the day. Yet, despite the activity of trade, the market was always as much about human connection as it was about commerce. It served as a shared sanctuary where neighbors paused beneath the shade of woven awnings to exchange quiet news, inquire after families, and rest their hands upon sun-warmed stone counters. In the artifacts displayed before us tonight, a painted terracotta flask for olive oil, a carved wooden scoop worn thin by generations of measuring flour, we see the slow, steady care embedded in everyday sustenance and shared time. As afternoon gradually slipped toward dusk, ancient homes gathered around the central hearth. In the amber glow of small oil lamps, very much like the clay lamps resting peacefully on the shelf before you, families came together to share simple, wholesome meals. Coarse earthenware pots simmered slowly over the lingering embers of charcoal, releasing warm, comforting aromas of stewed lentils, rosemary, dried fruit, and toasted grain. To share a meal in those ancient rooms was to mark the peaceful conclusion of another day, easing tired muscles and sitting quietly beside loved ones as twilight deepened outside the doorway. There is a profound reassurance in knowing that across thousands of years, human beings have sought the very same stillness at the end of the day. The simple act of breaking bread, sharing quiet words in the dark, and laying down the burdens of labor is an enduring inheritance. Tonight, these modest objects rest in silent harmony within their cases, their long work complete, holding the tranquil memory of shared warmth and gentle nourishment. As we step softly away from this gallery and toward the next silent hallway, the calm of those long ago evenings remains with you. The low, golden glow of the museum lights reflects gently off the floor, guiding your steps in an unhurried, rhythmic cadence. Everything is at rest now. The ancient markets are quiet, the hearths have cooled to soft gray embers, and the night folds around you, comforting, warm, and deeply still. Chapter 7. Travelers, Letters, and News. Moving forward into the quiet darkness of the upper gallery, your footsteps make almost no sound against the polished floor. The glass display cases line the hall like quiet sentinels, holding inside them the small, everyday relics of human connection across great, quiet distances. Here, under the soft amber glow of the low evening lights, we pause beside a case dedicated to the ancient rhythms of news and travel. Before the age of instantaneous messages, information moved no faster than a walking horse, a drifting river barge, or a steady runner following a coastal road. In the glass before you lies a small bronze token from the Roman Empire, smooth around the edges where generations of thumbs have rested upon it. It is a tessera, a modest pass carried by messengers on the cursus publicus, granting a quiet rider fresh horses at way stations spaced a day's ride apart along the peaceful countryside. You can picture the courier arriving at dusk, the smell of damp earth in the evening air, handing over the token, and finding a simple meal and a restful place to sleep while the stars came out over the Mediterranean hills. Beside the token rests a collection of folded letters from the 16th century, written on sturdy linen paper. In those days, envelopes did not exist as we know them today. Instead, the writer would carefully fold the letter itself into a neat packet, tucking one corner into another, and securing it with a drop of warm, red beeswax. A signet ring pressed into the soft wax bore the owner's mark, ensuring the words within remained private until reaching their destination. The dark ink on these pages was mixed by hand from oak galls, iron salts, and gum arabic. Over the centuries, it has faded to a soft, warm sepia, resting peacefully upon the pale fibers of the paper. These letters carried news of quiet things, a successful harvest, the arrival of soft autumn rain, inquiries about a distant cousin's well-being, or the purchase of wool at a regional market. There was a gentle patience inherent in every letter written long ago. When a message was sent across a sea or over a mountain pass, weeks or even months would pass before a reply could return. People lived comfortably with the silence between thoughts, knowing that news would arrive when the long journey was complete. Letters were kept folded in wooden chests, brought out on quiet evenings to be read aloud by the warm glow of a hearth. In the center of the hall stands a wooden traveling desk, its dark oak polished and worn smooth by years of use on long carriage journeys. Inside its small compartments sit tiny glass inkwells, a bronze sander filled with fine dust for drying wet ink, and extra nibs cut from goose quills. To travel in those days meant carrying your stillness with you, writing by quiet candlelight in roadside inns while the night settled over unfamiliar towns. As you step slowly away from the display, the deep quiet of the museum cradles these long-ago journeys in peaceful rest. The letters sit undisturbed, their stories held safely in the quiet dark, as time moves gently onward through the night. Chapter 8: Evening Work and Lamplight. As you step gently into the next gallery, the high ceilings soften into the cozy proportions of an old archival study. The polished floorboards beneath your feet yield a muted, steady rhythm, carrying you deeper into the museum's quietest hours. Here, the display cases are tucked between tall oak bookcases, showcasing the everyday tools of evening work from centuries past. A small brass desk lamp casts a warm, honey-colored circle of light across an open linen paper ledger, softly illustrating how scholars, cartographers, and clerks once documented the world long after the sun had set. Before modern electricity brought uniform brightness to every corner, the arrival of dusk marked a distinct change in the pace of human activity. In the 17th and 18th centuries, tasks that required close attention were brought within the small, soft boundary of a single flame. Scholars and manuscript illuminators arranged their work around brass oil lamps or simple beeswax candles. The light was quiet, warm, and deeply localized, creating a small sanctuary of focus, while the surrounding corners of the room softened into deep, restful shadow. Walking slowly past the glass exhibits, you can see the small iron snuffers, the ornate silver wick trimmers, and the heavy stone inkwells used during those peaceful evening hours. There is a quiet, rhythmic beauty in the deliberate nature of that era's work. To write by candlelight meant pausing periodically to trim the burning wick, to carefully dip the quill into dark ink, and to let the wet lettering dry beneath a fine dusting of pounce powder. Each movement was natural, deliberate, and unhurried. The night did not invite speed. Instead, it offered an undisturbed space for steady, patient concentration. By the early 19th century, innovations like the argand lamp introduced a brighter, steady flame through clever glass chimneys and tubular wicks, allowing archivists, illustrators, and engravers to work with greater comfort without straining their eyes in the dimness. Yet, even with these technical improvements, the character of evening labor remained calm, quiet, and introspective. The gentle hum of oil burning low in a reservoir, the faint scent of warm wax, and the rhythmic scratching of a pen across handmade paper created a deeply soothing atmosphere for quiet thought. In this peaceful gallery, the low lighting honors those quiet hours of dedicated care. You can easily picture the museum's early curators working late into the evening, cataloging newly arrived antiquities by the light of a single lamp, carefully writing inventory cards in elegant, flowing calligraphy. Their patient handiwork remains preserved all around you, captured on yellowed paper tags and in heavy, leather-bound ledgers that have rested undisturbed on these shelves for generations. With every slow step forward, the air feels cool, still, and reassuringly constant. The rest of the world outside has settled into complete stillness, leaving only the soft glow of the low museum lights to guide your path through the darkness. There is no rush here, no pressure to move any faster than the calm, steady rhythm of your own resting breath. As you prepare to transition toward the next quiet room, allow yourself to linger in the soft warmth of this lamplight, drifting easily into the gentle, restful hush of the night. Chapter 9 of 12. What was remembered. As the quiet steps of the guard fade into the distant corridors, the museum settles into total stillness. Night has drawn its soft curtain outside the high windows, and within this darkened gallery, time moves at a gentle and unhurried pace. Illuminated only by warm, low display lights, lie the humble traces of human history. We often imagine the past as a grand tapestry of kings, monumental battles, and tall marble columns built to defy the centuries. Yet, as you wander slowly beside the glass cases, you begin to see that the truest memories of our shared existence are preserved in far smaller, quieter things. On a bed of dark velvet rests a small tablet of sun-baked clay, fashioned over 4,000 years ago in the fertile lands between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Pressed lightly into its pale surface are delicate cuneiform marks, forming a routine record of harvested barley and livestock. The scribe who pressed those tiny symbols into the damp earth did not write for far-off generations. He was simply recording the peaceful work of an ordinary afternoon. The clay dried slowly in the sun, enduring long after the granaries were emptied, carrying across thousands of years the simple proof of daily care. A few steps further, within a glass cabinet devoted to ancient Mediterranean life, sits a thin wooden writing tablet that once held a layer of dark wax. Beside it rests a slender bronze stylus, its tip smoothed by years of gentle use. Upon these simple slates, school children practiced their letters, merchants recorded modest sales, and family members wrote quiet greetings to loved ones living across the sea. Though the wax faded away long ago, the faint impression of the stylus remains etched into the soft wood underneath, speaking only of regular habits, small kindnesses, and the steady rhythm of everyday living. Nearby, suspended in protective shadow, are delicate fragments of woven cloth. Threaded with steady patience in ancient looms, these scraps of linen and wool still hold subtle tones of terracotta, indigo, and warm ochre. Each thread represents a quiet, deliberate movement, drawn across the frame hour after hour, as soft daylight drifted through open windows. The weavers who guided those threads left no recorded names, yet their quiet mastery endures in every tight knot and careful weave. In another corner of the gallery, small clay oil lamps rest side by side on a polished shelf. Their narrow rims still bear faint smudges of carbon from wicks that burned brightly long ago. They once cast warm light across modest rooms, guiding quiet evening conversations and soft lullabies as families prepared for sleep. Like every object in this hall, they remind us that human hearts have always sought warmth and rest when evening falls. To reflect upon history in the silence of the night is not to memorize dates, but to rest in the comfort of this enduring connection. The people of long ago walked beneath the same peaceful evening sky, shared warmth around their hearths, and welcomed the quiet rest that comes at the end of the day. As you pause before the archway leading onward, the museum holds these modest memories in safekeeping, wrapped in soft shadows and endless calm. Chapter 10. Night settles in. Outside the high arched windows of the grand gallery, the last whispers of twilight have completely dissolved into the quiet deep of midnight. The museum has settled entirely into its nocturnal rest. The grand marble halls, which held the footsteps of inquisitive visitors only hours ago, now cushion a profound and soothing stillness. Here, beneath the high vaulted ceilings, the ambient noise of the city outside fades into absolute silence, leaving only the slow, steady rhythm of your own gentle breathing. As you step softly into the gallery of ancient antiquities, the low amber nightlights cast long, soft-edged shadows across the polished stone floors. The air here feels pleasantly cool and remarkably still, preserved at an even, comforting temperature to safeguard the ancient treasures resting within. Before you stands a tall glass case housing delicate fragments of ancient Roman mosaics. In the dim light, the tiny cubes of terracotta, lapis lazuli, and creamy limestone blend together into soft, subtle hues. You can imagine the quiet artisan who laid each stone 2,000 years ago, pressing them gently into warm mortar under a peaceful Mediterranean sun. That long ago daylight has dried into history, leaving only the tranquil beauty of their geometric patterns to keep watch through the night. A few steps further down the carpeted hall brings you to a row of glass cabinets containing illuminated manuscripts from the early Middle Ages. Opened carefully to pages of fine vellum, the hand-drawn script sits in elegant, deliberate rows. The leaf gold accents on the initial letters catch the soft, low glow of the gallery lights, glimmering like tiny, quiet embers. Scribes who penned these words worked slowly by candlelight, dipping quill pens into dark iron gall ink with patient, measured hands. There was no rush in their work, only a calm devotion to a craft that required long hours of quiet stillness. Looking at the smooth, natural curves of the ink, your thoughts naturally slow down to match that ancient, unhurried pace. Above you, the subtle architectural details of the ceiling, carved wooden beams, and molded plaster cornices seem to softly absorb the darkness. Every artifact resting in this room has survived centuries of changing seasons, stormy nights, and quiet mornings. Bronze bowls resting on soft velvet pedestals, ceramic oil lamps with worn rims, and carved ivory, comb fragments, all sit comfortably together in their shared silence. They require nothing from you now. They simply exist, preserved in peace, carrying their quiet stories safely through the dark hours of the evening. The shadows move slowly as you pause near a smooth marble bust of an ancient philosopher. Time and soft light have softened the contours of the stone, giving the carved face an expression of timeless serenity and deep quiet. Rest your gaze upon the gentle line of the statue's shoulder, and let any lingering tension in your own shoulders soften as well. The museum is a sanctuary of memory, a safe shelter where time rests undisturbed. With each slow, restful breath, the dim corridors stretch out peacefully ahead, inviting you to let go of the day and rest deeply. Night has truly settled in, wrapping every hall and every object in a blanket of absolute, undisturbed calm. Chapter 11. What Remains? As you step into the quiet hall near the museum's heart, the last echoes of the day have completely faded. The air here is cool, calibrated, and still, holding a subtle scent of old paper, polished wood, and ancient stone. In the low amber glow of the night lamps, the display cases appear less like showcases and more like quiet sanctuaries. Here, surrounded by shadows, one begins to notice not the grand narratives of kings and empires, but the gentle persistence of small things, the modest artifacts that have survived the quiet passage of centuries. Before you rests a simple terracotta bowl from the Eastern Mediterranean, crafted more than 2,000 years ago. In the soft light, its curved surface reveals fine, concentric ridges left by the potter's wheel. If you look closely near the base, there is a faint, shallow impression where an artisan pressed a thumb into the damp clay before placing it into the kiln. Kings died, borders shifted, and entire cities rose and fell into dust. Yet this humble dish remained intact, buried beneath soft layers of earth until patient hands restored it to the light. It sits tonight on dark velvet, perfectly at rest, having outlasted the noise of its own era. Beside it, behind clean glass, lies a fragment of ancient Roman window glass. Unlike modern glass, which is clear and thin, this piece is thick, pale green, and slightly opaque, filled with tiny suspended bubbles trapped within the molten silica long ago. Time has brushed its surface with a delicate iridescence, creating a soft, pearlescent sheen that catches the faint night light. It once filtered the warm Mediterranean afternoon for a household whose name is long forgotten, casting pale green light onto cool mosaic floors. Tonight, it reflects only the stillness of this silent gallery. Further down the hall, bronze objects rest in their cases, wrapped in a deep olive patina. Bronze does not decay quickly. Instead, it forms a protective layer, turning from golden metal into a soft, matte green that shields the core from further change. It is a slow, quiet transformation that takes centuries to complete. A small bronze key, a folding mirror, a simple coin marked with the profile of an unknown ruler. All of them carry this soft green velvet of time. They ask nothing of us now. They do not demand to be remembered. They they simply endure. Across the room, a tall cabinet crafted from European oak stands against the stone wall. The timber was harvested centuries ago, darkened by age and smooth wax to a warm amber. Away from direct sunlight, the wood rests in calm harmony with the room. It has outlived the ancient forests from which it came, holding its place with quiet stability. When the museum closes its doors and the visitors depart, these objects return to a rhythm far slower than our own. They measure time not in hours, but in centuries of quiet waiting. In the darkness, the museum becomes a place of complete rest, where the long history of the human hand comes to a gentle pause. Everything that needed to be done has already been accomplished. Everything that needed to be preserved is safely held. As you walk slowly toward the final corridor, the silence grows deeper, inviting your thoughts to settle, calm and undisturbed, into the quiet of the night. Chapter 12. Soft Ending. The footsteps have faded completely now, leaving only the deep, comforting quiet of the central atrium. The heavy wooden doors at the main entrance were closed and locked hours ago, sealing out the bustling noises of the city. Overhead, through the grand glass dome, the night sky turns a soft indigo, filtering a subtle, cool starlight down onto the polished limestone floor. The museum rests in absolute stillness. Every story told today across these grand galleries, from ancient bronze tools fashioned during the dawn of metallurgy, to delicately preserved illuminated manuscripts painted with lapis lazuli and leaf gold, now settles into peaceful silence. Here, in the central hall, a row of ancient marble columns stands tall and steadfast. Carved over 2,000 years ago from Pentelic stone, their fluted surfaces have witnessed the passage of countless generations. Yet, tonight, they simply support the quiet air of midnight. Nearby, behind glass lit by low, amber display lights, a collection of modest Roman terracotta oil lamps sits upon dark velvet cushions. In their working years, these simple earthenware vessels held small wicks floating in olive oil, casting warm, flickering glows across quiet bedchambers in ancient Mediterranean towns. Now, unlit and at rest, they share in the calm stillness of the modern museum. As you pause near the center of the rotunda, you can admire the gentle, harmonious geometry of the architecture. The high barrel vaults soften the ambient hum of the building's climate control, transforming it into a faint, rhythmic murmur, much like a gentle night wind rustling through an ancient olive grove on a quiet hillside. The air is cool, stable, and perfectly steady, carefully maintained to preserve fragile vellum scrolls, ancient cedar coffins, and centuries-old pigment against the natural decay of time. Further down the corridor, behind low glass barriers, rest delicate artifacts of daily domestic life from bygone eras. Small carved wooden combs, polished bronze hand mirrors, and simple weaving shuttles carved from bone. These modest objects remind us that despite the vast sweep of empires, dynasties, and historical events, human routines have always ended in this same quiet way, putting aside the tools of labor, dimming the hearth, and welcoming the healing comfort of sleep. The long shadow of a Hellenistic marble statue stretches softly across the geometric mosaic floor, untroubled by the passage of centuries. Its carved stone eyes gaze into the dimness, resting after centuries of quiet observation. There is nowhere else you need to go tonight, and nothing left you need to accomplish. The artifacts have fulfilled their daily purpose, sharing their historic quietude with all who walked through these doors. Now, alongside the silent walls and shadowed alcoves, they are content to rest in the cool dark. With every slow and easy breath, the ambient quiet of the museum wraps around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. The vast story of human history is safely preserved, held gently within these thick stone walls, guarded by night and time. As the last lingering reflections of light melt into shade, the entire hall slumbers. The air is still, the gallery is dark, and everything is at peace. You may now close your eyes, let go of the day, and drift softly into sleep.